You're on.
Okay, let's bring this meeting to order.
Okay, welcome to the Queen Anne's County Commissioners meeting. This is a public meeting that is being aired live on our local cable television station, QACTV 7. These media broadcasts provide county citizens an opportunity to watch and review our scheduled public meetings. In addition to our live audience this evening, we are providing remote options for citizens to watch and participate in county commissioner meetings. Citizens may watch our meeting live on our website at qac.org/live or on our television channel, Breezeline Channel 7 and High Definition Channel 507. Citizens may also participate by joining the live Zoom meeting by going to qac.org/public comment. Citizens may also email comments to publiccomment@qac.org. Comments received will be summarized during the press and public comment period on tonight's agenda. We acknowledge everyone's participation, and by attending, you acknowledge that this session is both recorded and aired. Press and public comment will be taken and is limited to 3 minutes per person. Please sign up on the information table in our lobby if you wish to speak. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing for the County Commissioners' review. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission Vice President Phil Dumenel.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yep, okay, so that brings us to the approval of our agenda for this evening. So our meeting agenda for this meeting, March the 12th, along with the regular session minutes, the closed session minutes, and the Sanitary Commission minutes from our February 27th meeting have been circulated for review. Do we have any additions or corrections?
Yeah, motion to amend the agenda to include 4 additional desk items.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Didn't vote
Okay,
in or not.
thank you,
So,
Commissioners.
real quick, we have Commissioner Jim Moran, who's on assignment, who's going to be zooming in this evening for the meeting as long as Mary Beth will allow him to zoom in.
Motion, yes, motion to approve the agenda as amended and the, actually, minutes as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. So we just held a closed session under the General Provisions Article, Section 3305B7, to consult with counsel, and Section 3305B1 to discuss boards and commissions and personnel. So first off, we have a few board appointments to review. First, we have the Broadband Advisory Council.
Yes, we have 2 vacancies and 2 applicants. Jack, you want to?
Let me,
I can do it. I move
Chris, you got it up,
to
right?
reappoint Andrew Costello and appoint Denara Marga to the Broadband Advisory Council. These terms will expire on March 31st, 2027.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, thank you. And next up, we have the Historic Stevensville Arts and Entertainment Advisory Board.
So we have 2 vacancies and 2 applicants.
I move,
All right.
I got that. Yeah, I move to appoint Karen Williams and Jenna Scott to fill the vacancy on the Historic Stevensville Art and Entertainment Advisory Board. This term will expire on July, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Oh, we have, somebody's taken over a term? Why do we have 2 different dates?
Oh, one must be an interim.
Yeah. Okay, so I move to appoint Karen Williams to fill the vacancy on the Historic Stevensville Arts and Entertainment Advisory Board. This term will expire on July 31, 2024. Also move to appoint Jenna Scott. This term will expire July 31, 2025.
We have a motion,
Second.
we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, and lastly, we have the Kent Narrows Development Foundation.
I I move to appoint Kim Hannon to the Kent Narrows Development Foundation. This term will expire on December 31st, 2026.
I need a
Second.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, and under Personnel, I'd like to announce the appointment of Mr. Mike Clark as the Executive Director of the Queen Anne's County Housing Authority.
Yes.
Great news for Mike. Big opportunity, a lot of challenges.
We
We're
should
looking
send
forward
him
to
a
that.
six-pack of his favorite beer.
Okay.
In the residence.
Okay, that's all we had for that section. So next we have press and public comment. All right, so we appreciate all citizens for taking time to express views to the county commissioners. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments longer than 3 minutes may be submitted in writing. This commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. When you come forward, please speak clearly at the standing microphone, state your name, your address, and your topic of interest. And in keeping with the dignity of our office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner.
The first person up we have is Anna Queller.
Good evening, my name is Anna Feller, I live at 129 Grace Pond Lane, and my topic tonight is an insured regional solid waste facility. On Friday, March 8th, 2024, I received as a copy a letter from Maryland Department of the Environment addressed to Commissioner Corcorino, erroneously still listed as president, but nonetheless electronically mailed to each of you, the commissioners, and to the court administrator. The letter pertains to the refuse disposal permit application process for Midshore 3 at Harper Road. The letter expresses many of the same concerns that the citizens, including myself, have been expressing to you since October 2023. It is evident via the letter that MDE agrees with many citizens' concerns. I summarize the letter as follows. At the October 4th, 2023 MDE informational meeting, MDE heard the concern in the comments that the citizens made regarding the inconsistencies between the proposed Harbor Road location and the screening criteria in the county's solid waste plan. While MDE cannot legally challenge the validity of the consistency letter the county sent to MDE as part of the permitting process, MDE is concerned that because of this ambiguity, there may be permitting challenges during future phases of the permitting process. MDE recommends that the county reconcile the proposed location with the county's existing solid waste plan prior to expending additional resources in the process. MDE asked the county to send an additional letter that the proposed location meets all applicable zoning and land use requirements, since the first consistency letter didn't say anything about that, even though it must in order to move further in the permitting process. I'd like to discuss now December 2021 internal county email summarizing a Department of Public Works meeting on August 17th, 2021. Some of the emailed notes from that meeting include, we need a consistency finding for the letter to accompany the state application and public service waiver. We need a consistency statement to reconcile the following items in the solid waste management plan and or amendments to the language of the plan. Chapter 4, page 70, screening criteria. Does this mean that the county was aware that the first consistency letter that was sent to MDE in October 2022 was erroneous or at best incomplete, since there was no reconciliation of the screening criteria and there has been no public service waiver? Concerted citizens research regarding Midshore 3 project has yielded many ambiguities that are now also being highlighted by MDE. The county's responses about these ambiguities up to this point have been insufficient. The time is right for transparency and the need for resolution is great. I respectfully request that you review the letter from MDE, investigate thoroughly, and prior to sending any return correspondence, hear from the public and discuss the matter openly. Please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Teresa Earhart.
Greetings, staff and commissioners. It's a pleasure to speak again about our concerns regarding the proposed location for Midshore 3. As you are all aware, our persistence of voicing about the county's non-conformance with this location was heard by MPD, and now action is due on your behalf. Our group of citizens is continuing to research. We are unearthing what we perceive as more violations to the Queen Anne's County's code, as well as state and federal environmental concerns. I want to point out that the county is still in violation of your current solid waste management plan pertaining to posting a sign designating the location for the landfill. This really needs to be done. The county has gotten away with hiding this information from the public for decades. Another concern of violation pertains to Section 18 of the Queen Anne's County's Code, streams and stream buffers. Please read your codes as streams, perennial or intermittent, require buffer distances for development. Landfills require an additional 300 feet from the stream buffers. Midshore 3 will be found to be with a buffer violation, and this evidence has been shared to appropriate governmental offices. And I caution you not to pencil whip another conformity letter with MDE until further investigation is held. Serious reconsideration needs to take place within the decision-making bodies of Queen Anne's County. Another area of concern is the bionet mapping for the landfill site. It is labeled at Tier 3 and therefore will strongly be considered by the state's Department of Natural Resources in terms of altering the land and especially for a proposed landfill. There are wetland concerns that have now been identified, mapped, and brought to the attention of appropriate governmental offices. So please, commissioners, please do your homework. Please take a closer look at the evidence that has been presented. This can't continue. Tax dollars are being wasted by funding Phase 2. These funds should be spent searching now for a more appropriate location that will pass the scrutiny of various agencies. Please look for a more appropriate location. Thank you. And I'm going to provide you with some evidence of what I just spoke about. Please share.
Ms. Archie, thank you.
Thank you.
Warren Wright.
Warren Wright, 201 Myers Road, Chestertown on the right side, Maryland. I wanted to speak about County Ordinance 2404, Cannabis Regulation. I want to thank Commissioner Moran and the other commissioners for sponsoring this regulation to protect Queen Anne's from some of the harms of the new marijuana commercialization. The incorporated towns in Queen Anne's County have already said no to medical and no to legal, except for Centerville. That's working out real well. And 20-some states now have either medical or legal cannabis sales, and 80% of those towns or incorporated areas have already said, let's limit where we put them. So that's the overwhelming majority. Newly legalized areas find about half of the new users are under 18. In the last youth risk behavior survey that we did for our QAC kids, it showed 20% of our high school kids had used marijuana at least once during the last 30 days. The reason that's important is that was during the pandemic, before legalization. The Surgeon General reports that the states that legalize cannabis have a net negative impact. There's a direct association between heavy use and psychosis, depression, anxiety, and stress. And of course, as you guys know, for kids, having cognitive impairment and decreased ability in school because of brain development. We don't want what we have for alcohol, which is over 100 places you can get liquor. And for cigarettes, there's 60-some places you can get cigarettes. There is currently a legislative proposal to take away the right of all local government to regulate the number and location of cannabis distribution centers. The hope is that won't pass, but the QA regulation only limits them to parts of Graysonville and the medical center district. That seems reasonable and responsible on you guys' part, so thank you very much. I have sources for any back that I gave. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Megan White?
Good afternoon. My name is Megan White. I'm with Shore Rivers. Shore Rivers is an environmental nonprofit dedicated to protecting and restoring the riverways of the Eastern Shore through science-based advocacy, restoration, outreach, and education. This includes the Chester and Gorska River, which run through this great county. Today, I have some exciting news to bring forward. I'm here with Bill Cheshire of the Centerville Rotary Club, and he came and spoke back in October. Shore Rivers submitted a letter of support for one of his ideas on Clean Anne's County Day. One of the initiatives that Shore Rivers does is we partner with the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay every spring and fall, and we host about 8 to 12 trash pickups throughout our entire watershed, branching up to Cecil County all the way down to Dorchester. With the effort of Bill Cheshire and a lot of other great organizations, including Plastic Free Queen Anne's County, we have been able to coordinate a Clean Anne's County Day, which is going to be April 7th. We have right now 5 trash pickups coordinated for just Queen Anne's County. We're trying to get as many volunteers out as possible on this day of service to really work on cleaning our roads, parks, and waterways from plastic and trash pollution. Bill will have more information about some specifics for that day, but I wanted to come and voice my support for this, and we hope that the county commissioners will also voice their support and try to rally the community around this really important initiative and day of service to try to clean our county. Thank you very much.
How much time did she have remaining? Okay. Bill Cheshire. Can you set it for 4? Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I would like to report on our progress on Clean Anne's County Day, which was reported to you back on October 10th, 2023. We have set April 7th, 2024 in the afternoon as a countywide roadside litter pickup day. The following organizations are participating. Obviously, Shore Rivers and the Alliance for the Chesapeake. Shore Rivers has provided us with administrative support. They have a very detailed site site captain's package, which is instructions on how to organize, be safe, and collect. They also are providing materials such as gloves, trash bags, safety vests, etc. to enable this work to be done. The following organizations in Queen Anne's County are participating so far in this effort. First, the Rotary Club of Centerville. Matt Sheewey, Stefan Stroh, and myself are going to act as site captains. We are right now projecting somewhere between 12 and 15 people in the town. The Rotary Club of Kent Island, Steve Warner is going to be their site captain, working on Kent Island. The Corsica River Conservancy, Ginger Cushing is their site captain, and they will also be working in the Centerville area. Plastic Free Queen Anne's County, Sarah Shelley is their president. They will be not only doing Queen Anne's County Day, but they're leading the trash pickup at the Royal Farms on Route 50 near the trailhead for the Cross County Trail. The Environmental Club of the Four Seasons on Kent Island is participating. And last but not least, the Gunston School, John Lewis is the head. Ronnie Vesnaver is their science teacher, and once again, she'll be leading a team of students down into one of the creek beds off the Corpusco River. Last year, they pulled out over 300 pounds of debris, just that one group of students. In the county, Sheriff Gary Hoffman has agreed to provide several extra patrols that afternoon to help keep us safe. Connie Tolson has reached out to me, and the Department of Public Works will designate, with coordination with our groups, the pickup first thing Monday morning. So I want to thank you all for your help in this, and look forward to cleaning up this county.
Bill, just a quick question. Is there a website that people can go to get some additional information?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
I will say for the record, you can text CLEAN to 443-677-8589 if you're interested.
Okay. Thank you.
Beth will get it out too, I'm sure.
Huh?
Beth Mulaski.
Okay. You want to say that?
I was just going to say, all the information will be accessible on the Shore Rivers website under our events page.
Okay. Shore Rivers,
shorerivers.org.
Okay, on your events page?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Alex Queller?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alex Queller. I'm here to talk about Midshore 3 briefly with you. So I live probably about a couple hundred feet from the proposed Midshore 3 location. And really just literally a couple hundred feet. And there's actually probably about dozens of people, not only in Shrewsbury Farm where I live, but off of Harper Road in Burrsville that are even closer. So, as you know, on October 4th, 2023, Maryland Department of Environment had a public informational meeting where a lot of citizens like myself expressed their concerns with really just the proximity. I think if it was a couple miles away, like all right, kind of this is unfortunate, but it's literally it's not even in the ballpark of being acceptable as a father of multiple kids. So MDE held the meeting. We expressed concerns to MDE during that meeting. And then on March 1st, 2024, about 5.5 months later, MDE sent the commissioners a letter just last week. I'm not going to read the whole letter to you, but just to highlight really what I found illuminating was, and I quote, MDE is concerned the ambiguity between the siting criteria contained in the county's plan and logistics of the current site location will present permitting challenges during future phases of the MDE solid waste plan refuse disposal permit process. MDE recommends the county reconcile the location of the new facility with the existing solid waste management plan prior to expending additional resources involved with refuse disposal permit process. MDE recommends the county reconcile the location of the new facility. So I think that's pretty, I can't put words in MDE's mouth. They don't say, we agree with the citizens, but they're not disagreeing that there's ambiguity there. So really my specific ask is, I know the county staff has spent time starting to work on other options. My two specific asks would be, one is really just work on figuring out where this facility should go. And as a citizen, happy to brainstorm ideas of what that would look like. It can't go on Harper Road. And my other ask would be for the commissioners to look at this and perhaps discuss it openly in the next couple meetings. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. That's everybody that had signed up. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Okay, we'll close public comment.
Okay, next we have our presentations portion of tonight's meeting. So we have our health officer, Dr. Ciatola. He is here to give us his semi-annual update on the Queen Anne's County Health Department. He has a presentation for you in your books, tab number 6, pages 1 through 7, and it's also up on the screen here for everybody to see. So, Dr. Ciatola, you have the floor. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right.
Well, thankfully, I can say that we are in a quiet zone as far as health department is concerned. It's a nice relief from the 3 years of COVID, and then we had the COVID and flu not really show up very actively in the community, thank you. And the health department is back to pretty much normal function. And what I'd like to do this afternoon is give you a little update what we've been doing over the last 6 months. And that one of the first things that I'd like you to study is our infants and toddlers program. This is done in conjunction with the Board of Ed, and the county health department is funding the nursing position for this. And since as you see, the 1st of July from last year to February, we've had 83 referrals, And the referrals come in from whichever hospital the birthing event occurs, whether it's down at Easton at Shore, or whether it's Anne Arundel, or any other facilities. And our nurse goes out, does the interview, sees what's necessary as far as the needs of the child and the family, and then subsequently arranges consultation with surround service agencies to provide those needs. And since the 1st of July, there have been 112 children served specifically with needs out of those 83 referrals. The other planning activity that goes on a regular basis with the health department is family planning. And as you can see, at 100% or near 100% of the families are below the poverty level. And as you see with that percentage, 77% of the clients are non-English speaking. And we have a nurse practitioner that runs this family planning clinic with the services of our community nurse. So this is one of the advantages that Queen Anne's has by having an NP running the family planning program. Community wellness. This has been something that we initiated about 3 to 4 years ago. In the midst of COVID, we were noticing people couldn't get in to see their doctor. They could not get even to urgent cares. So I said it's time to use our community nurses in a different way. And we have, at this point, 3 nurses assigned to this program. And essentially, they're doing blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol screenings, and lifestyle screenings with the patients in the community venue, such as the senior centers, community fairs. We're doing this as an outreach so that people don't have to come physically to the health department, but we've got the programs to go out and adjust the needs of the community. And since essentially the first of the year, from July 1, the fiscal year, we have essentially done 838 screenings. And the screenings are not only testing for cholesterol levels, but also doing A1C to see if they're pre-diabetic, because the push from a medical standpoint in our community is not to try and treat all of the diabetics, it's to prevent diabetes, and especially the adult onset diabetic, and that's why the A1C program is a very important piece of this. As far as our oral health, and we've done this for years, is to supply to the participants at Queen Anne High Schools and Ken Allen High School and the Lions Youth Football League the mouth guards for the children. We've given 100 toothbrushes through infants and toddlers, and we're providing oral health and education through several other venues in the community. Queen Anne Health Department does not do direct dental or oral care, but we do have a relationship with Uptown Community Health that does provide some of that. And also with Kent County and the assistance of the health department from Kent County. As far as asthma is concerned, we're making a big push to try and address the smoking habits of parents or family members in households with asthmatic children, because the smoking obviously makes the incidence of their severe attacks increased over a period of time. And we're doing that through our smoking cessation programs. Colorectal screenings. This is a service that we offer to the public for those individuals that are underserved as far as insurance or underinsured. And basically what this has done over the last year, the volume has come down because of the availability of insurance through the Maryland Insurance Co-op that the state runs. So technically we've only done 8 people since July, assisted them with both colorectal as well as cancer screenings. Skin cancer prevention, we focus on the children. During the sun safety events, we give out the 3,500 UV color changing bracelets so the children will understand what sun exposure is doing to the bracelet what that can do to their skin.
I have one?
Anytime.
Are you 16? It's only for.
Diabetes and tobacco. Well, tobacco is, I guess, like, and it's going to be marijuana, our new marijuana. And, you know, the state approved it, licensed it, made it recreational. Now they're going to give us money to try and prevent it. So the programs are already ramping up to decide how we're going to keep our youth and teenagers away from marijuana and vaping. Vaping is going to be the biggest issue with the marijuana for our students. And this is something that we have to enforce. There's a bill right now in Annapolis about the funding that could come from the sale of marijuana, as well as the money from the smoking cessation grants and settlements that have been done for enforcement of sale out of illegal age groups or individuals for both marijuana and cigarettes. And this will be done by site inspections, run usually through the community in conjunction with the sheriff's office, with state police, and we'll try and address those issues. But it's something that we're going to have to be actively engaged in. And as Warren so greatly acknowledged the fact that we've got a problem now, like alcohol. We legalized it, but the amount of alcohol consumption, we all know what the side effects are. The impaired driving affects your overall general health and well-being. So
Broken families.
this is what we're looking at, and we're going to have to deal with it.
I'm assuming that vaping dope intensifies it, the
Well,
high?
Because of the purity of the marijuana now and the strength of the marijuana, it's not what it was in the 80s and 90s. It's a much more,
It's 10 times stronger.
and when you don't know what's mixed with the vaping oil, and the vaping oil in and of itself is a problem for the pulmonary structure. It settles in the alveoli, which are the small air sacs in the lung, and that dramatically impacts the ability to exchange oxygen with your red blood cell. So the more you're vaping, the more there's a potential for getting chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and difficulty breathing.
Do we have a video of what you just said on our website, or could we do one for a PSA? Mr. Warren, with Dr. C? Please.
Nick, mobile integrated health.
Real quick, Doc, before you go on to that, you mentioned checks. So underage sale,
Compliance checks.
compliance checks, who monitors that? Who's going to do that?
That's done in conjunction, believe it or not. Warren, you still here? You can add to that because you're actively involved with it.
But the health department is the one that initiated compliance checks, which are regularly done, and they have a stepping stone, and they're about to start, I believe, compliance checks again. But we're trying to work it out with the state that when they sell twice, we refer to the state, and they have the power to jerk their license for.
So at this point right now, it would be the health department that will be doing those compliance checks?
Health Department in conjunction with law enforcement. And Drug Free Coalition, because we could use volunteers from there for the compliance. So, as I was going to say, in Annapolis, they're discussing now where the money's going. Is it going to go directly to MDH and then dispersed to the local health departments? And we don't know which way that bill's going right now. So what has worked for smoking cessation, the smoking money comes directly proportional to the size of your population in the jurisdiction. So we'll see what happens. We're keeping an eye on it. Mobile integrated health. That's our program that we have essentially led the state on. And I believe at this point in time, there's probably close to 14 or 15 jurisdictions now modeling the mobile integrated health throughout the state of Maryland. And what we have been doing actively is working in conjunction with the discharge planners, both for Shore Regional Health as well as Luminous Health, Anne Arundel Medical Center, and trying to address the needs before the patient comes home as far as what services are needed, when are they going to have a follow-up with their primary care or their specialist. And we've also been asked by the Maryland Healthcare Commission to do a presentation in May. Dr. Sharpstein, the chair of the Maryland Hospital Cost Review Commission, has asked, because this is one of the few programs that in conjunction with a state agency, specifically the health department, in conjunction with the hospital systems, have been able to significantly reduce unnecessary 911 visits and calls, as well as 30-day readmission avoidance in the community. He would like this demonstration of this program to the full board at the Maryland Healthcare Cost Review Commission in May of this year. So wait to see what happens. So our FEP, Public Health Emergency Preparedness. And this is thankfully getting back to something that's not related to COVID. And it's done in conjunction with the Region 4 Coalition, which is all the hospitals on the Eastern Shore. And they've recently had a tabletop exercise that all the FEPs and emergency preparedness and the emergency agencies, DES, as well as law enforcement. And one of the things we worked on was active shooter, or an active incident, as far as response, recovery, family reunification. And one of the other episodes that they had just last week was a sarin gas exposure and attack, and a response for not only the state, but primarily the Eastern Shore. Where are the antidotes? Where's the PPE? Where's the staffing issues? How are we going to treat? How are we going to transport? Everybody talks about EMS transporting. Well, we only have a certain number of ambulances, and we only have a certain number of ALS providers. And when you put 3 or 4 of those providers on a medical bus, you just took 3 ambulances out of service. So
That's nothing that a BLS can,
ELS, you will have those 3 units because we're using a BLS individual as the crewman married to the ALS provider. But if they've got to go on a medical bus, then you see what we're dealing with. So, and finally, addictions. Let me just say that we have, since the 1st of January, distributed 140 doses.
Answer slide. Answer slide. Yeah. There we go.
Since January, we have dispersed in the community 140 doses of Narcan. We have also, and I believe Warren was again at the event where the overdose box, this is the plastic, looks like a weatherproof electrical box that has Narcan in it and has instructions and a little video that then tells you what to do and how to administer the Narcan. This is being offered to all of the businesses through our commerce activities to put in businesses. Also, you could put them in any type of public venue area so that Narcan is accessible and available. We're one of the few jurisdictions that are doing this. There is legislation now going through the legislative body that anybody that has a defibrillator, that there also be one of these Narcan boxes, one box next to the AED. We have made the arrangement with any business that takes them. They will monitor them because they've got to check the expiration date on the Narcan and also monitor if anybody has opened it and taken the Narcan, because there's no way the health department can monitor all of these that we give out, or even DES. So we've made an MOU with the business establishment that they, at least on a periodic basis, check the continuity of the box, whether it's been used, whether it's been damaged, and or is the Narcan expired. Our peers are actively doing outreach, and at this point in time, as far as Queen Anne is concerned, we have 9 cases of opioid overdose, and knock on wood, 0 deaths. So,
Dr. Ciatola,
I'm open to questions.
somebody who finds that they have a Narcan kit that is outdated, what do they do to get one that's no longer outdated?
We usually will give them to anybody who comes in and brings in the expired Narcan, not a problem.
All right, thank you.
Any questions?
No questions from me.
Outstanding.
As always, thank you.
Good to see you back, Doc.
Thank you very much. You all have a good evening.
Jim.
Thank you.
If someone wanted to pick up some Narcan, they could just go right to the
Department of Health.
Department of Health.
All addictions, to make sure somebody's there and that they have it, because the peers may not be there, they may be out with a client or taking someone to Whitsett Center. So all they have to do is call the health department, ask for addictions, and see when somebody was there to exchange out the Narcan.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Commissioners, we can move into the legislation portion of tonight's agenda. Mr. Thompson, can you join us, please? So we have a series of public hearings. Next, if you want to turn to tab number 7 in your books. The first public hearing is on County Ordinance 22-04, and this is a bill entitled An Act Concerning the Camping Cooperative Use in the Suburban Residential Zoning Districts in Queen Anne's County for the purpose of amending the permitted uses in the SR zoning district to include camping cooperatives and to establish minimum site areas, setbacks, and to define camping cooperatives. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Thompson. We are a little behind schedule, but please proceed.
On February 13, 2024, Commissioner Wilson introduced County Ordinance number 2402, a bill entitled Camping Cooperative Use in the Suburban Residential Zoning District in Queen Anne's County, for the purpose of amending the permitted uses in the Suburban Residential Zoning District to include camping cooperatives, to establish minimum site area, to establish minimum setbacks, and to define a camping cooperative. This proposed ordinance received a favorable recommendation from the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission at their February 8, 2024 meeting. It would add sections 18.1, 18B1, 18.1, 18E4, 18.1, 18E5, and a definition to 18 App 1 of the Code of Public Local Laws of Queen Anne's County. This hearing is being held Tuesday, March 12, 2024 at 5:50 p.m. in the County Commissioner Meeting Room, Liberty Building, 107 North Liberty Street. Copies of the ordinance have been available in its entirety at the County Commissioner's office and the Department of Planning and Zoning, and online at the county website. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Written testimony of any length may be submitted on or before the hearing date to the county commissioners. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assistive listening systems are available. Part of the record of this proceeding will be a certificate of publication indicating that notice of the same would publish for 3 successive weeks prior to today's date in the Bay Times Record Observer, newspapers of general circulation in Queen Anne's County, and the recommendation of the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission. Got a couple people signed up. Robert Beats.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Bites. I'm the president of Beach Harbor Campers Co-op. I represent 260 shareholders of Beach Harbor. And over the last couple of years, we've spent a considerable amount of time and resources working with the county, Mr. Kling in particular, Ms. Mordock, and Ms. Swinson, as a result of the FEMA audit that took place over the past couple of years. And I'm just here to say we appreciate the work that's been done on behalf of the county and on behalf of Beach Harbor, and we do support moving forward with this ordinance so that we can continue to work together to come into compliance. Thank you very much.
Catherine Sanasi.
Who signed the wrong page because I didn't have my glasses?
That's all right. All right, no worries. Is there anybody else who has any public comment with respect to County Ordinance 2402?
We'll table it for 2 weeks.
We'll just hold the public comment open.
Hold the comment open for 2 weeks.
That's fine. All right, Commissioners, our next item, item number 2, on page 3, is County Ordinance 24-03. This is a bill entitled An Act Concerning the Pier Length Extension Reviewed by the Queen Anne's County Board of Appeals for the purpose of amending the accessory pier use to require variance rather than a conditional use for pier lengths greater than 150 feet. Mr. Thompson?
On February 13, 2024, Commissioner Cortorino introduced County Ordinance 2403, a bill entitled the Pier Length Extension Review by the Queen Anne's County Board of Appeals for the purpose of amending the accessory pier use to require variance rather than a conditional use by the Board of Appeals in order to construct a pier at a length greater than 150 feet as measured from the mean high water line. Proposed ordinance received a favorable recommendation from the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission at their February 8, 2024 meeting. The ordinance would add sections 18.1, 18B1, 18.1, 18E4, 18.1, 18E5, and a definition to 18 App 1 of the Code of Public Local Laws. The hearing being held Tuesday, March 12, 5:55 p.m. in the County Commissioners Meeting Room, Liberty Building, Centerville, Maryland. The copies of the ordinance have been available at either the County Commissioner's Office or Department of Planning and Zoning, and online on the county website. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Written testimony of any length can be submitted on or before the hearing date to the county commissioners. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assistive listening systems are available. Part of the record of the proceeding will be a certificate of publication indicating notice of tonight's hearing will be published for 3 successive weeks in the Bay Times, Record Observer, newspapers of general circulation in Queen Anne's County, and the recommendation of the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission and public comments that the commissioners have received. Several people have signed up. First, I have Frank Gialleonardo. Sorry if I...
That's okay. Just missed the B. The rest of it sounded pretty good. Good evening, Commissioners. Frank DiGiulianardo, Centerville, Maryland. Here to request that you approve Ordinance 2403, which I understand will tighten up on the application and review and approval for these pier extensions beyond the normal 150 feet or so. It seemed to be, I don't really have statistics on this, but there seems to have been a proliferation of these longer piers of late in the county. And, I think a tighter review of those applications is in order. I appreciate Commissioner Corsiani for introducing this. One of the problems is that these excessively long piers can interfere with the general public use of our waterways, sailing, kayaking, which tends to go, along the coastline for the most part, paddle boarding, and almost any kind of boating potentially can have a problem with these piers. Another aspect of the piers is that, the longer the pier, the more of the underwater environment is covered up and essentially put out of business in terms of habitat. So, you know, the shorter pier, the better. And, you know, finally, these piers tend to degrade our scenic waterways. Obviously, they're needed for practical purposes, but, you know, we don't need to have these private piers becoming marina-like. And, you know, I think just a tighter review of this is in order. So I, again, request that you approve this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim Wright?
I'm Jim Wright, Centerville, Maryland. I and my wife have lived on the Corsica River for over 40 years, and I and my family have lived in Queen Anne's County for a lot longer than that. And I'm here in support of this bill that will, as Frank has said, toughen the requirements allowed to expand a pier over the 150-foot length of right. I think this bill corrects probably either a mistake or a change of events. To my knowledge, this is the only conditional use that affects property not owned by the applicant. It's not a side yard, it's not a this or that. That property is owned by the state of Maryland for the benefit of the residents of the state of Maryland. And I would think that in that situation where it's being an application is for not property the applicant owns, but for something owned by the state for the benefit of the residents, there should be a requirement that says that the burden of proof for this use, which will double the length of a pier, that burden of proof should be on the applicant who's seeking to use other people's property. And unlike the burden of proof that basically on a conditional use is on the opponents to have to prove that this is not an appropriate one. This change, these long piers, have really changed the nature of our waterways. When I was a younger man, the size of boats were probably rowboats in 1940. They got to be sailboats, penguins. Then they became fishing boats, 15-foot fishing boats. I think now the larger boats that I see on the waterways are 30-foot boats. I call those big boats. These long piers are not for big boats. These long piers are for yachts. And I think that in that situation, particularly in the situations that the applicant has adequate water already, a lot of times on 150 foot, but they want a larger, deeper access for larger boats. They should have to prove the need for that requirement. Thank you.
Jay Fawcett.
You can just hand those around here. The others are all the same. Good evening, Commissioners. Jay Falstad, Queen Anne's Conservation Association. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. We urge you to vote favorably on Ordinance 2403. A couple things I'll say about this. It's hard to top anything that Mr. Wright just said, but he's absolutely right that the property that we're talking about, as these images show, as you look at each one of those properties, that ownership stops at the shoreline. And so it's not unreasonable to ask a landowner to have a little bit higher burden when requesting these long piers. what this is really about, and I say this having been on the losing end of conditional use applications in the past, but anytime a conditional use application comes in, that is a use, and it will be granted in almost every circumstance. You have to show that there's something just extraordinarily unique in order to deny a conditional use application. What 2403 says, it's not denying anybody the ability to go for a longer pier, it's just there's a little bit higher of a standard. And so I think it's not unreasonable for you all to request that higher standard. One of the Planning Commission members said at the last Planning Commission meeting that inconvenience does not constitute hardship. And I've been thinking about that because that's basically what we're talking about here. We're talking about long piers where somebody wants to put in a giant boat. Queen Anne's County has marinas for that. I think there's 7 of them in Queen Anne's County able to accommodate these large yachts. I fear that if we allow these extended piers to go on further, we're going to look like Barnegat Bay, New Jersey, or Tampa Bay, Florida, where you have these long piers going out, and it really creates a gigantic eyesore. And if we allow that to happen, we're really going to regret it in the long run. So I'll close by saying that we urge you to vote favorably on 2403, and thank you very much for the time.
Billy Bennett.
Gentlemen, Billy Benton, I'm a Vice President of the Queen Anne's County Watermen's Association, and we urge your support for Bill 2403. We just, it impedes a lot on our areas of working, crabbing, clamming, and things like that, and we don't need a longer pier. Thank you.
Jeff Thompson.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here really for one reason only. I actually have a application in for a conditional use next Wednesday. I've got a client who's been working for months to get that application heard, and my fear is that should you pass this bill 2 weeks from now, I can't possibly get it approved. I mean, it's going to be a race against time, you know, between getting the bill approved and me getting construction underway. And I think it's patently unfair. The bill was introduced in January. My client had this application long before that. So what I'd like to ask is that you provide a grandfathering provision in the bill to recognize that he did file ahead of time. He did what the ordinance asked him to do. And it seems like it's pulling the rug out from under him to come in now and do this. Because even if I get the approval next Wednesday, your bill will trump that approval. Because once a new law comes into effect, there's not going to be any vesting because it can't possibly be under construction before the 45-day period and your bill becomes effective. So I just think in the interest of fairness that, you know, the commissioners, you really ought to consider this grandfathering provision. I will say that there are other alternatives. I mean, you could have permitted use out to 150. You could have conditional use to, say, 250. And then beyond 250, have it that more strict standard of a variance. There is a huge difference between those requirements, you know, meeting one standard versus meeting the other standard. And it's not just for yachts. There's a lot of shallow water, you know, if you're on the wrong side of the river, then it's you need a longer pier in order to accommodate a boat, and they all aren't yachts. But thank you, and again, would really appreciate it if I don't know what I'm going to do, and next Wednesday I've got this hearing, not knowing what your vote's going to be, and I'm kind of left between a rock and a hard place. And I know staff was under the impression when I first talked to them that, well, we're in the queue, so you're okay, and we really aren't. Because if the law changes, we have to live with the new law. Thank you.
That's everyone who signed up, is there only? Yes, ma'am. Sure.
Catherine Shinazi, Centerville, Maryland, and I'm the 3rd generation of my family in our house on the Corsica. So I've walked at the river for a lot of years, and I would urge you to approve this ordinance. You've heard a lot of the good reasons. One of the piers that is under consideration right now by the Board of Appeals is one of those marina-like piers that you heard Mr. Falstad talking about. Almost double the size and length, 6 6-finger piers, lots of moorings. I mean, we're a small river, actually an estuary, and if we approve and continue to approve projects like this, we won't have the river anymore that I grew up with and my parents grew up with and my grandparents grew up with. So thank you for your consideration. The comp plan that we all work so hard on talks about the use of our resources for recreation, the small boats, the kayakers, the windsurfers. Those are all recreators as well. It's not just the large yachts that want to come in here. And finally, it is a public good, so we're looking at a private gain, in many cases financial, for use of a public good. So thank you for your attention to this, and thank you for introducing the ordinance.
Is there anyone else that has any public comment with respect to County Ordinance 2403?
For the hearing, I want Amy to come up. Yep. I have some questions. Yep. Can you come up? I'm going to have Amy come up. I got some questions that I want to be part of the hearing. So a couple things. First off, I don't want to get into what's the difference between variance and conditional. I understand there's different levels to play with there. Of these longer piers, what's the average length that the conditional use is being asked for over 150? What are you finding? That, I mean, I know we don't have a lot of 500-foot piers here in Queen Anne's County. What is that average? Is it 200, 250? Where are we at?
There are a few 500-foot piers, and there are a few that come in at around the 270 range.
Okay.
There are a few that have been 300, 314, I can remember. So we are seeing longer piers, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because when I last sat before you and talked about the evolution of how this bill was drafted, I had mentioned that we got input from the Board of Appeals, and we did. The Board of Appeals held a workshop meeting, but I do want to clarify, because I know there's been some misunderstanding since that time. The Board of Appeals is not a recommending body as relates to text amendments or site plan reviews or other project reviews. They have a very specific purview. When the board approaches staff about some interpretations that they struggle with. In the past, there were setback variances for accessory structures or setbacks for side yard structures and variances that had to go before the board, and there were an excessive number of them, and they were very easily proven to be practical difficulty cases. Staff listened to that and came before you and asked to move forward with text amendments. So sometimes it's their practical application that informs legislation like this. When we discussed this with the board, it wasn't a unanimous opinion by the Board of Appeals asking us to move forward. It was a conversation, and through looking at the length of these piers over time, looking at some of the struggles the different board members have expressed with how do we grapple with some of these site conditions, that we looked at the bulk standards and how bulk standards traditionally are variances, and that would give the Board of Appeals more tools and more discretion, no matter what length came before them. If there were a valid practical difficulty like shoaling in a waterway, sandbars forming, cove situations, that there would be a more black and white test to document what those practical difficulties are. So the pier lengths are getting longer. Some of it has to do with larger boats. Some of it has to do with the properties that don't have piers yet, don't have piers for a reason, and it's because there isn't water depth, and to get some water depth you need to go out farther because of erosion over the historic trajectory of the shoreline.
So how many applications do you say that the Board of Appeals has to do in a year's time? I mean, how many are we talking about? Hundreds, 200s, 500s?
Over the past,
Yeah, since 2002,
Okay.
we've had 45 conditional use applications. 45, yep, for pier extensions that are greater than 150. All were approved. The greatest distance was 495.
How many are currently in the application process?
one. Yes, and it was definitely not staff's intention to pull the rug out from under that applicant. It really was our understanding of case law that projects in the pipeline were not subject to legislation. So had we realized that there was the possibility that this project would be impacted, we would have put forward grandfathering provisions in it.
Of those, not to set you up, but of those 45, do we have any idea how many of them were requested because the water was too shallow to draft?
They weren't requested on behalf of the depth of the water. They were requested for the use of the pier because the applicant wanted to be able to reach that length. So a conditional use doesn't require the property to have that unique circumstance like Amy was discussing. A conditional use doesn't have to have that test, and that's the test that I think that the Board of Appeals is looking for so that they have more teeth to review a case.
Which the variance will have.
Yes.
Right. So let me ask you this. First off, I'm kind of disappointed that we have a pier that has fingers on it in a residential setting, because that is a marina application. You can park many boats along a single finger pier out. So I don't know why we're granting finger piers in residential, but that's a whole different animal. When we get past a certain length, are we requiring navigational lights on these piers when they reach out to protect our watermen and other people that may be out and about at night? Because I know it's an issue on the western shore. Did we have a requirement for that?
You know that that has been discussed with some of the cases, and that has been a condition of approval on some of the longer cases. I also know that and I don't know it off of the top of my head, but I know that through the MDE licensing, that once a pier reaches a certain length, that lighting is required, and I don't know what that number is.
But we could make that, in ours, we could require that. I want to look into that too, to add as part of our, well, I don't care, even at 150 foot, that's out there. And I know those guys are in tight, and we don't need people's boats going into piers, especially since obviously up to 150 feet, you're still going to be able to put one out there. So
I think there should be lights on it. I mean, if you're going to put a pier out, you certainly wouldn't want a boat to hit it and demolish your pier.
Okay, and then the last thing I'd ask is, of the 45, in 2 weeks, because we're going to leave this open, I'm assuming, could you come back and give me what the breakdown is? Just those distances between the 45 permits? I just want to see what that length is and how many of them.
Anybody else have any questions for
Good
staff?
questions. Good questions.
Okay, we'll hold public comment open for 2 more weeks. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Stay here for the next one.
We'll just stay there for.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Commissioners, our next public hearing is item number 3 on pages 4 through 16. This is County Ordinance 24-04, and this is an emergency bill for an act concerning cannabis regulation in Queen Anne's County for the purpose of regulating consumption, growing, processing, and dispensing of cannabis and the locations of cannabis dispensaries and processors in Queen Anne's County. Mr. Thompson?
Thank you. On February 13, 2024, Commissioner Moran introduced County Ordinance 2404, an emergency bill entitled Cannabis Regulation in Queen Anne's County for the purpose of regulating the consumption, growing, processing, and dispensing of cannabis and the location of cannabis dispensaries and processors in Queen Anne's County, prohibiting on-site cannabis consumption establishment, permitting cannabis licensed growers as a conditional use in the agricultural district, permitting agricultural licensed processors as a conditional use in the suburban commercial district, the urban commercial district, the suburban industrial district, and the light industrial highway service district, permitting cannabis licensed processors in the suburban industrial employment district, permitting cannabis licensed dispensaries in the Graysonville Gateway and Medical Center district, providing setbacks for such uses, providing additional standards for cannabis-related conditional uses, providing definitions of cannabis, cannabis concentrate, cannabis infused products, cannabis licensed grower, cannabis product, cannabis licensed dispensary, cannabis licensed processor, and on-site cannabis consumption establishment, and generally regulating and providing for the processing and dispensing of cannabis in Queen Anne's County. The proposed ordinance received a favorable recommendation from the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission. The ordinance would add section 18.118B1, 18.118E4, 18.118E5, and a definition to 18 Appendix 1 of the Code of Public Local Laws. This hearing is being held Tuesday, March 12, 2024, at 6 p.m. in the County Commissioner's Meeting Room, Liberty Building, 107 North Liberty Street, Centerville, Maryland. Copies of the proposed ordinance have been available at the County Commissioner's Office, Department of Planning and Zoning, and online on the county website. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. Written testimony of any length may be submitted on or before the hearing date to the county commissioners. All hearing sites are accessible to individuals with disabilities. Sign language interpreters and assistive listening systems are available. Part of the record of proceeding will be a certificate of publication indicating notice of tonight's hearing was published for 3 successive weeks in the Bay Times, Record Observer, newspapers of general circulation in Queen Anne's County, and the recommendation of the Queen Anne's County Planning Commission. I don't know if anybody signed up. Is there anyone here who has a comment with respect to the County Ordinance 2404?
Close the hearing.
Yeah, sorry. Close the hearing
And then I'll make a motion to adopt County Ordinance 2404.
Second.
we have a motion, we have a second, any discussion? Again, we're choosing to vote on this because it is emergency legislation.
So, and just to discuss, and I discussed it with Amy yesterday, and I did verify it's true. Actually, there was some thought that we may get preempted by the state based on the legislation they have in now. But it looks like they're actually being true to their word that they said they were reaching out to the counties to look for guidance on how to set this up. And my understanding is, and you were right, they are going to use Queen Anne's County's ordinance we're passing tonight as part of the framework for how they do this statewide. So that's good news.
Patrick, do we have residential neighborhoods in here?
No.
500 feet?
It's 1,000, right?
1,000?
Well, it provides a 1,000-foot.
I think it's a 1,000-foot setback.
Okay. I
But
don't
it's
see
not
it,
a
but
permit.
can we make sure it's in there?
Well,
Not
so
many
this is where you
uses
go,
like
so the state is going to preempt it if, they were talking about preempting it at 500. So that's why I think we're clean, because it sounds like they're happy with 1,000, so.
Just to be clear, it's a 100-foot setback to a residence, to a lot of a residence.
But not a house, right?
Right. To that lot line.
Lot line, right.
I meant
And
residential
also
neighborhoods.
remember that this was going from medical marijuana to recreational marijuana. And, you know, that's why we put this in there, this bill. We wanted the same regulations we have with medical marijuana. So, with this, I mean, what is striking to me is that if we go with the bill as it's written, and we are going to go with it, there's a possibility of 19 new locations where that recreational marijuana can go. Under the state's plan, there would be 27. So I do think this is more than reasonable. It's what we did for medical. It's what we can do for recreational. And I'm glad to hear that the state's going to look at this, because I think that they'll agree with us. So, you know, kudos to everybody that worked on this. Thank you very much. And, you know, the guys doing the math and everyone else involved.
To your point, Jim, how far this has actually come is originally they wanted to allow it to be no more stringent than where a liquor store is. So you can imagine how many of those you would have had. So.
Big change.
Big change, yeah.
All right, so we had a motion, we had a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, ladies.
There you go.
All right, Commissioners, our final piece of legislation this evening is item number 4 on pages 17 and 18. And this is the consideration of the Comprehensive Water and Sewer Plan Amendment for the Fox Farm subdivision within the town of Sudlersville. We held a public hearing on this a couple of weeks ago, and it is available for a decision this evening if you're so inclined.
I move to approve the map amendment request to upgrade the water and sewer designation for the Fox Farms property located within the incorporated limits of the town of Sudlersville from S3W3 to S2W2.
Have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion, questions?
This is long overdue.
Long overdue.
Yes, it is.
That's an understatement. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, gentlemen, that is all the legislation we have for this evening. We can now move into the action items for this evening. First, we have the Department of Public Works. So if you want to switch your books over to tab number 2.
Dave, how do you skate on a water and sewer vote? He's sitting back there hiding.
Don't need me.
All right, so we have tab 2, item number 1 on pages 1 through 4. This is the, we see this every year, this is the Maryland Department of Agriculture Mosquito Control Agreement Cost Share Arrangement for the Mosquito Control Program here in Queen Anne's County.
I move to approve and execute the 2024 Mosquito Control Agreement with the Maryland Department of Agriculture and to allocate funding up to $30,000 for the program per the agreement.
Second here.
Motion, who's my second?
Patrick.
Okay, we have a motion.
Did this go up at all, Alan, or is this bit?
Yeah, it went up, actually, it went up more than that, but Dave McGlashan talked him down for this year, but I would anticipate rates having to increase next year.
I just remember it was a lot lower than that when I remember looking at it.
Yeah, they kind of shocked us. They give us an estimate, but they went way over their estimate this year, so we negotiated down some, but.
Wow.
Okay, just because I've always had a lot of questions about this process. So, obviously, the mosquitoes start with a larva in the, we'll call it stagnant water or whatever. Is that water treated with something that kills the?
I'm not entirely sure.
What's the real science behind this? I mean, does it even work?
Yes. I mean, I don't know what they do, but I do know there's commercial projects available where they throw a bacteria into the water that the mosquito eat, and it clogs their digestive system so they don't mature. So that's the larvicide part of it. And then the insecticide is where they spray pesticides.
This is one you don't want to know how the sausage is made, Phil.
Yeah, right. And then again, I mean, I've seen the trucks drive through neighborhoods spraying that fog.
But that's the mature mosquitoes they're trying to kill.
I understand that part. So this is not, now we've got flying mosquitoes, and so they drive through the communities and they're fogging in the air, and so they, I mean, how much of that actually works? Does it settle down? I mean,
I think it depends on where you're spraying. I don't know, honestly, what the effectiveness is. You know, it has to be a still evening, or morning, and it has to settle on the area where the mosquitoes are congregating. I think it's, you know,
Weather in general probably plays a big role in it.
I think it's better than nothing, but.
well, and I guess that was going to be my next question. I think the technology behind the whole thing, it's certainly better to do something than nothing at all.
Well, they are a significant disease vector too. I mean, we've been fortunate around here not to have West Nile or the other things. So, but they could, if that were to outbreak, that could be an issue.
So, Alan, real quick, I know we do this every year. You come in and do this. How do people request?
You know, the funny thing is we have next to nothing to do with mosquito control.
Well, no, I know, but they have to get a hold of the state, right?
What if an HOA committee wants to get involved?
They actually, I live in one, I have to pay for my spraying. County does not come down my neighborhood.
I think they can go online and sign up It's all handled by the Department of Agriculture. All we do is get this signed. They collect the money. We set the rates. They send us the money. We deposit it. Then they send us a bill, and then we send them the money back.
Pay it back.
So it's like, I don't even know why we're involved. We do nothing.
All right, any other questions? We had a motion, we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you, Alan.
All right, item 2, Commissioners, on pages 5 through 8, this is a federal funding request support letter for the railroad line here in Queen Anne's County. This is a letter that was drafted to Congressman Harris requesting support for federal funding to improve the MDOT's single rail line here in Queen Anne's County that runs down to Tidewater Direct. So this was to MDOT. So
So is this to fix it or do away with it? I couldn't fix it. Fix it, okay. Because when I first read it, it was like they were going to cut it off somewhere and then.
They are considering cutting it off, well, assuming they get money to even to repair it, they're going to cut it off just past Tidewater Direct, and the rest of the railroad right-of-way is going to be rail banked.
Okay. So basically, when you get across 304 there, from there.
To Tidewater Direct.
Yeah, they come into Tidewater, but then it crosses over 304 there too, right?
Yes,
will it
and
stop
that's
there,
Nutrien,
right?
that's the second user that's can no longer use it because of the condition of the rails.
Gotcha.
And I need a motion.
I move to execute the letter to Representative Andy Harris requesting support for federal funding of the Enhancing Eastern Shore Freight Rail Growth and Reliability Project.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other further questions or discussion?
How much are you asking for?
I have no idea. Does it say in that attachment I gave you?
You going to donate, Patrick?
He's paying for mosquitoes. He can't afford railroads. Come on.
That's right. Buck 280.
I don't think it said in there, did it?
Oh, there's some numbers on the bottom of the attachment.
Page 8.
Got it.
Well, anything that he'd be able to help us with would be great.
Yep.
All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any hopeful? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Yeah. Our last item for the Department of Public Works here this evening is item 3 on pages 9 and 10, and this is just to announce that the next Midshore Household Hazardous Waste Drop-Off Day event is scheduled for Saturday, April 6th, from 8 to 2 at the Department of Public Works here in Centerville, 312 Safety Drive. This is a very, very popular event for the region, funded by the Maryland Environmental Service through the surcharge fee at the landfill.
So if anybody has any, has questions about it, they can reach out to the Maryland Environmental Services at 443-685-4073.
Fun for the whole family. Alan dressed up as a barrel of toxic waste, gives out candy to kids. It's a good event. Everybody enjoys it.
Again, Saturday, April 6th, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., rain or shine, at the Queen Anne's County Public Works, 312 Safety Drive in Centerville.
Yeah, bring your paint, bring your old TVs, electronics. It's great. Great.
The more toxic, the better.
Yeah, again, just call 443-685-4073 if you have questions about what they're going to take.
Yeah.
You see, they are taking propane tanks, which is something new.
Really?
That's always been an issue. Hopefully,
Yeah, 'cause if they
I think
not
they're
empty.
somehow, but it's always been an issue how to get rid of your old propane tanks.
Right.
It is
You
bad.
go to fill a tank up and they tell you they can't fill it up because it's old. Okay, I'll buy a new tank, but what do I do with this one?
You put it on the side of the propanes.
That's what you
and
do.
then you-
Let them deal. That's what I do.
Or unfortunately.
Did I forget that? I'm
Queen
sorry.
Anne's County, you just throw it on the side of the road somewhere.
Don't say that.
Hey, Beth, real quick, did you put something out on this already? I knew you
All our social, it's on the front page of the county website.
did.
Actually, that's where I saw it.
Mr. Director, if the railroad here was fixed, would they really use it? Honestly?
They were
Are they going to
using-
come down here for one stop?
Tidewater's, they're there at least once a week, at Tidewater.
They were doing between Tidewater and Nutrien, they were doing about 100 cars a year, and the distance.
Meaning, what railroad is it? Freight.
I've seen CSX down there.
I don't know who the operator is, honestly. I'm not sure who the operator is.
And then I've seen a
So
small
they were
one.
doing 100, and now they're
Not going to zero because the rails are in poor condition. They
And it would help our businesses?
help them, I guess, but we had always envisioned, well, a dream about putting a business park out there because you got 304 with the interchange, and then you had a rail line. You would think it might be attractive to certain industries.
Business park where?
Just out there by 304, 301.
By Tidewater.
Like an industrial than a business park. Yeah, adjacent to Tidewater.
Right.
But you got water and sewer issues too, naturally.
It's closed, though. It's real close.
But, yeah, I mean.
You'll let them do a septic system, right? Just kidding.
Septics don't work real good out there.
Just a mound.
Well, I mean, I'm a fairly big proponent of rail to the extent you can be around here, but I would hate to lose the ability.
What?
Lose the ability to have rail into the county.
Well, I see Heather back there, and there are people that when they come in looking for property, that's one of the things they're looking for is rail service. Like Sudlersville is got a couple of properties up there.
Oh, you mean commercial?
Commercial, yeah. Or industrial, actually.
Right.
Depending on what you want to do, but yeah.
Unless you want railroad through your,
No.
house.
Too many chicken houses, we ain't getting through, no railroads coming there, we're good. All right,
good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quimby. All right. Okay, Commissioners, that is all for the Department of Public Works. If you want to turn to tab number 3, we have, I guess, 14 action items to cover this evening. So tab number 3, item 1 on page 1 is the character counts spotlight responsibility.
The spotlight for March 2024, character counts pillars celebrated March's responsibility. This pillar stands for doing what you are supposed to do, taking accountability for your actions, and understanding and acting on your role as a member of a community. Our nominee this month is a perfect example of a community member who fulfilled his responsibility when he noticed a neighbor in need, Mr. J.P. Riley. On a chilly morning in January, Rob Nissen decided to go kayaking, an activity he has been enjoying for 16 years. However, on this morning, the unexpected happened and his kayak was capsized. He relates that he was in just 3 feet of water, but would sink about 6 inches into the muddy bottom of Carter Creek with each step. With the kayak completely full of water and very heavy, he began his attempt to get back to shore. After about 15 minutes of struggling in the very cold water, he was within reach of the shoreline when he noticed a neighbor he did not know, who came out and offered to help. This neighbor, J.P. Riley, helped Mr. Nissen drag the kayak out of the water and onto land. Mr. Riley's involvement could end there, as Mr. Nissen's plan was to get the water out of the kayak, return to the creek, and paddle the few hundred yards to his home. However, Mr. Riley suggested simply leaving the kayak where it was and offered to get Mr. Nissen's home himself. Not wanting to impose on a stranger, Mr. Nissen initially said no, but as he was starting to feel very cold and beginning to shiver, he relented. Once home, he took his temperature and was shocked to find it had dropped to 89.6 degrees. For those outside the medical professions, normal body temperature is around 98.6. Hypothermia occurs when your body temperature falls below 95 degrees and can lead to complete failure of your heart and respiratory system and eventually to death. Mr. Nissen's body temperature returned to normal after about 90 minutes. Mr. Nissen wrote, "I am nominating J.P. Riley for this award because I was a complete stranger to him, and yet he took his time to help me when I did not even realize I needed help. If he hadn't come out to help me, I probably would have messed around with my kayak for several minutes to get all the water out and then spent several more minutes in my sopping wet 40-degree clothes kayaking home. With my core temperature continuing to drop, who knows how low it would have gotten. Mr. Riley may have literally saved my life. I will be forever grateful." We are all grateful to Mr. Riley, who showed responsibility for his neighbor in this situation and possibly averted a tragedy. As always, if you are aware of a business, nonprofit, or individual in the county exemplifying one or all of the 6 pillars of character, be sure to nominate them for a future spotlight on the Character Counts website, www.peopleofcharacter.org.
Thank you, Jack.
All right. All right, Commissioners, moving on. Item number 2 on pages 2 and 3, excuse me, is a broadband, the long driveway grant program. It's a request for the use of additional funding. And as you know, in the interest, we are continuing to provide broadband to services to those using the long driveway grant program. We do have an anticipated award of a $1.1 million state grant, and we need to match that. with county funding. So this is a request to use $600,000 of the public fiber program funds and also increase that allocation with an additional $400,000 from the ARPA account.
So give me a motion and a second.
I move to approve the request to provide $1 million of funds to continue the implementation of Queen Anne's County's long driveway program to provide the necessary match to minimize the benefit, to maximize the benefit of the $1.1 million state grant.
We have a motion, we have a second. Ms. Delgado. Our Director of IT.
All IT.
All
Not
IT.
national.
Manager.
Manager.
Director, manager.
Yes, so we are very, very sure we are going to get the grant from the state, so that's why we're coming to you to ask for this funding. And then the additional funding is to help cover what the state won't cover with the long driveways, so they won't help, or they don't anticipate helping to build the middle mile, which is like the smaller pieces in between, from between houses that a little bit further away. We have right now in our long driveway program, plus or minus 1,500 feet that we cover, and we want to be able to continue to do that. So that's just like what I would consider to be minor middle mile, not to be confused with the next action item, where it's major middle mile. So this is just smaller distances to get from one driveway to the next. So that's what the extra funding is added there for, and also to keep the program going until we get the state funding, so.
Any other comments or questions? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Our next item, item 3, on pages 4 through 11. This is, as Megan mentioned, Part 2. This is a request to circulate a request for information for the middle mile, and this is a recommendation to request information and get some cost estimates for what a middle mile broadband project would cost, and if we are to provide that service. And Megan can
So
explain
technically,
that.
is this going to be an RFI or an RFP? Are we asking for pricing, or are we just asking for plans?
For information for quotes,
Plans.
really, yeah, for
Okay.
plans and for how much it would cost each internet service provider to.
I move to request to circulate the RFI to determine the cost to build middle miles to areas.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any questions? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
We'll make sure you
Good
go
job.
first next time.
Yeah. That's why I waited a little while to come, so. You guys have long meetings on legislative day, so.
That's right.
thank
All right,
you.
thank you, Megan. Thank you.
Our computer.
Yeah.
I just have to remember my password.
All right. Okay, moving right on. Item number 4 on pages 12 through 19. This is a forest conservation plan and deed of easement for the Terrapin Skate Park area. And this is a forest conservation plan and deed of easement for your consideration, review, and signature to protect a small forested area on the skate park property down there at the end of Cocky Lane.
I move to approve the forest conservation plan and to execute the deed of easement for the Terrapin Skate Park.
Second. Second. We got a motion and a second. Any questions what this is? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Excuse me?
Get her done.
Okay, got it.
Get that skate park built.
That's right. Item number 5 on pages 20 and 21 is a request for funding. It's a support letter for Not My Child, Inc. They are seeking funding support from Senator Cardin and Van Hollen's FY25 congressionally directed spending of approximately $200,000 for Project Restart, which employs to support employment strategies to aid those recovering from substance use disorder, facilitating collaboration between peer support and recovery individuals.
I move to execute Not My Child's letter of support to Senator Cardin and Van Hollen, requesting funding for Project Restart.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anybody here from Not My Child? No?
So,
They were here.
they were here.
They were? Okay.
Bored them and they left.
They're never going to get to us.
We didn't pay them enough.
All right, we have a motion, and we have a
Have to be home
second.
by Wednesday morning.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Someone call Tony and tell him he got his money.
Support letter. Hope the money's coming.
His letter of support.
His letter of support.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item number 6 is on pages 20 through 24, is the Fire and EMS Commission Point Systems Award approval. This was presented in April of 2023, and there was a minor oversight on the original, leaving 4 of the organizations off the document, so this is presented as a corrected version for your execution.
To approve the Queen Anne's County Fire and EMS Commission's point systems for active status.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion or comments? Is there? I got some questions.
What do you need?
So points for each 2 hours of service type training. Good. Standby, 1 point for each 4 hours of standby. Good. An elected position, an elected appointed person, so your officers that serve on the firehouses, get 25 points just for that position. Not too many of these officers change, at least chiefs and presidents in a lot of these houses.
But they're also the most active, so it's a fair statement to say that because
Lot of
they're
work into it.
presidents and all that, they're
And they're carrying a lot of the work.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they should get 25 points a year
Absolutely.
for that.
Actually, they should get
They're actually
50
going-
or 100, to be honest with you. for
They're
all they
actually
do.
going out on the calls.
Yeah, some of them are even, yeah, they're
Well, I
even
know
the
they're
high,
going-
they're
well,
even the
I
high
know that.
responders.
I know that, but, okay.
To me, this gets your guys who are on the bubble about being an active member involved.
Encouragement.
Because you've got the tax credits you can get, all the things that come with you being active. And I wish Billy was here because he could attest to it, and I've heard the stats at the FEC meeting about how our recruitment and retention is actually up since some of this stuff related to these points, because these are low set points. These points are basically state sets this. We just adopt it, so.
So the state sets these points that they get, not us?
All this goes to the state for the point system, right? They have to report it.
Please don't misunderstand.
No.
I think
It's a
this
good question.
I was just curious how the points are, first of all, how many they get, who they go to. And then my last question was collateral duties, so like fundraising, events, administrative work, cleaning the apparatus. I mean, isn't that stuff that you should be doing as a volunteer in your firehouse anyway?
No, well, yes, but keep in mind, old dudes can't do the drills. They can't ride the
apparatus.
But it's still an integral part
So
of.
they-
So this is an opportunity for them to get their
Correct,
points.
exactly. Because you have a lot of life members that are in their 60s, 70s, even 80s that are still active at the firehouse, doing things, fundraising, that kind of stuff
Right.
that doesn't really carry the weight of going out on a call.
There's a guy at the Centerville one that I did, he was in his 90s.
Yeah, so I was just curious how they came up with these. Again, we are so blessed to have the volunteer firehouses that we have in our community, because if we had to go to a paid service, whew, that would be very expensive.
Yes.
So, all right, so we have a motion, we have a second. I'm done asking stupid questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 7 on pages 25 through 49 is the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA. This is from the Baltimore Metropolitan Council. They submitted a notice to participate in this planning grant program and designate the BMC, Baltimore Metropolitan Council, with oversight and responsibility for managing grant funds and coordinating activities and deliverables pertaining to the planning grant program. And all the counties in that group have submitted letters of support. So we'd recommend proceeding ahead with this MOA.
I move to authorize the county administrator to execute the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Memorandum of Agreement on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'm having microphone
There it is.
problems.
Now it's on.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. She can't get out of her seat quick enough.
How much pollution are we going to reduce by doing this?
All of it.
All those in favor?
It's commensurate percentage based on the other counties involved. We're the only Eastern Shore County in the region, so we have a very small piece.
So you're saying we're leading all Eastern Shore counties
Yes,
for
we
this
are.
effort?
That's a true statement. Yeah.
If it doesn't work, we can blame Commissioner Moran, because I think he's the president of that this year, so he's,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, and on a positive note, this county has always been very proactive, and we do have a greenhouse gas emission plan that was drafted in 2006. A lot of those initiatives have been implemented, some of them have not. Being engaged in this grant with the BMC does give us an opportunity to move forward and complete some of those initiatives, and obviously we've generated more since 2006.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Items 8 through 10 are from our esteemed Director of Economic Development and Tourism. So the first one, item 8, on pages 50 through 52, they have applied and are requesting approval to apply for a $50,000 non-capital Maryland Heritage Areas Authority grant to fund a new exhibit, Working the Waterman Heritage Dead Rise Boat Exhibit, to tell the story of the history, culture, and legacy of local watermen through the tools, equipment, and resources commonly used in the industry.
What am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to move to, no, I don't need that. I move to execute the letter of support for the Economic Tourism Development's application for a $50,000 Maryland Heritage Areas Authority grant for the Working the Waters exhibit.
I have a motion and a second. Heather, you want to tell us a little bit about this, the condensed version?
Yes.
Okay.
Very excited about this opportunity. We're applying for a $50,000 grant that we have to match with 50, and we plan to do in-kind donations and hopefully have some donated materials. But what's going to be really cool about it is we hope to incorporate a dead rise, the actual boat or a modified smaller version, and have hands-on experiences where they're baiting trot lines, crab potting, dredging, all on land, obviously, but actually have the tools to be able to tell the story. We're hoping to incorporate, African-American and women's stories as well in that exhibit, and we plan to host it at our current museum as well as make it a traveling exhibit. So we're really excited.
Inside
about
the
this.
museum?
Yeah,
It'll fit.
eventually. We're doing some renovations
I'd get
there
something
down the road, I hope.
pretty good sized.
Well, that would maybe be a smaller version.
Okay. All right. Get a motion and a second. Any questions for Heather? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item number 9 on pages 53 and 54. This is a agritourism economic and land use study that was funded with a $75,000 grant from the Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund. An RFP was circulated, 8 proposals were received. The staff has met with Planning and Zoning and the University of Maryland, and they are recommending award of the contract to BAE Urban Economics for $74,885.
I make a motion to approve this.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. So when you make a motion, get a little closer to the microphone, speak up a little bit.
Say?
We have a motion and a second. Heather, you want to tell us a little bit about this one since you're here?
Yes.
Did somebody know how much
That's
the
under
grant
budget,
was?
too.
Looking at those prices. I've never seen anything that competitive before.
So actually, we did put the amount in the grant because that was the
Okay.
limit of what we could do. The Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund, the $2.9 million that the county received a while back, is funding this $75,000 grant. And the project was recommended by our University of Maryland Extension Office Jenny Rhodes and Lee Bridgman, and supported by our Planning and Zoning Office, as this is a component of the comp plan strategies that came out of the comp plan, is that they wanted to look at agritourism and how, and land use. And for us, obviously, in our department, we're looking at how we can support agritourism and the economic development impacts. So we worked jointly on drafting the RFP, reviewing the RFPs. We had 8 great proposals, and this was the top one, BAE Urban Economics. So if it is approved today, we're going to get right on a roll to start so that we can complete that project by August, so that our planning department can then use the recommendations provided in this study to potentially implement some changes.
All right. You have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Next item is item number 10 on pages 55 through 58. This is a request for economic development funding for Eastern Shore primary care practice. The EDIF Commission voted to recommend the approval of a conditional loan of $50,000 to the Eastern Shore Urgent Primary Care Practice for the development of a primary care practice co-located with their urgent care practice at 7416 Church Hill Road in, well, it's in Chestertown, the address, but it is in Queen Anne's County.
But as Warren said, on the good side.
On the good side, that's right. Yeah.
I move to approve the disbursement of $50,000 from the EDIF Fund to Eastern Shore Urgent Care LLC for the purchase medical equipment for the new primary care office. The disbursement of funds is contingent upon a signed agreement between the EDIF Commission, Eastern Shore Urgent Care LLC, and outlines the conditions of the agreement and performances of the project in accordance with the application submitted to the EDIF Commission.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
This is a happy one to do, because they have done a great job since they opened their doors up there, and them expanding is such a great thing for North County, and also kudos.
Just the one, just
Before you go across the bridge on the right.
The
Yep.
bridge, yeah. I've been there.
And they have a lot of land there, so they could even get bigger than what they're planning, so it's awesome.
We have a motion and we have a second. Other comments, discussions, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, Commissioners, we have 4 desk items.
Together.
The first one, desk item 1, is a letter of support for federal aid from VAMSA. And this is a support letter for their impending, or their fundraising applications to earmark funding for
Hold on,
their...
did we miss one? I have one for striped bass before that.
That's the next one, yeah. Am I out of order?
We're out of order.
Excuse me.
That's
Okay,
right.
all right. I'm looking at my motions here, so, all right. Got
We
it.
can do VAMSA. We'll
You wanna do
switch them
VAMSA?
around.
Go ahead,
We can do it.
Yeah, so they're looking for earmark funding for their Center for the Military and Veteran Family Center on Kent Island.
I move to execute the letter of support for the Veterans and Military Support Alliance for earmark funding to expand services.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions? Well, I'll save it for roundtable. That's all right.
All right.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay, then back to the item marked desk item 1. This is a Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission limiting the Atlantic striped bass, the bag limit of 1 fish. This is an opposing letter to Amendment 7 of their plan to reduce the bag limit to 1 fish for striped bass. Kent County Commissioners have already submitted a similar
I move to execute
opposition letter.
the letter of opposition for the Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission limit on Atlantic striped bass. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Just a quick comment. I actually had an opportunity to appear on WBOC, Channel 16, which we don't get in this county anymore. There was a vote taken to reduce the number of rockfish that our charter boat captains can claim. It used to be that they could get 2 fish. Now they're trying to reduce it down to 1. Ultimately, there's a trickle-down effect. Not only does this affect our charter boat captains because they can only keep 1 fish. I mean, if their customers come down from Philly, from Baltimore, from Washington, D.C. to go fishing for a weekend, and then they stay in our hotels and they eat food in our restaurants, and they're going to not come if they can only keep 1 fish. So there's a lot going on here, and we're joining with Kent County to send a letter to Mr. Kurtz, our Director of Department of Natural Resources, and of course our Governor as well. So anyway, we had a motion, we had a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Desk item 3 is a support letter for the Historic Christ Church to the Maryland Historical Trust. They're submitting for exterior restoration of the 1880 Historic Christ Episcopal Church.
I move to execute the letter of support for the Maryland Historical Trust grant application for the exterior restoration of the Historic Christ Episcopal Church.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. And our final item for this evening is another support letter. This is to the Maryland Heritage Areas. This is for Stories of the Chesapeake. They have a grant application submitted for their proposal to provide a project for Paths from the Past, Tales of Terrapin Nature Park, and this is for illuminating some signs along the Cross Island Trail.
I move to execute the letter of support for the Maryland Heritage Area's Stories of the Chesapeake grant submission.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? So moved.
That is all of the action items for this evening. I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Jumenel. I think he has a
You got press and public comment?
Do you want to? We can do that next. Yeah, if you want to do that next.
Yeah, let's do that.
Press and public comment. Anybody else?
Anybody sign up? Nope. Okay, we'll close press and public comment. All right, so you have can you cue a video? You guys are going, what is this? Always exciting.
Is that you, Phil?
Get volume, sound.
I hear it.
You can hear it.
You can hear it. Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
How about a little flight of the bone? I hear the blood goes there. I know. It's a little early for flight of the bone.
Got a postal guy on the ticket.
Yeah, no kidding.
You guys are like, what the heck was that? So that was an example of the shrink wrap that was being removed from a boat, with the cords removed out of it, the vents and zippers cut out, rolled up and put into a bag. Beth had some wonderful talking points for me here. We have approximately 5,000 recreational boats in Queen Anne's County, estimating that half of those boats use shrink wrap in the wintertime, which equates to roughly 30 tons of plastic that goes into our landfills if we don't have this recycling program. So we introduced it last year for the first time, and I think you guys remember helping out with that. and we managed to collect 1.62 tons of plastic shrink wrap that would have normally gone into our landfills that didn't. So we're launching this program again. Could you guys zoom in on this? Huh? You want to see the video again?
No, was he reusing that?
Yeah. So that was an example of one of the marinas that participates in the program. And what they do is they literally take the wrap off. It goes into a special bag. The folks that have recreational boats that they have shrink wrap put on them, and you want to, there are some places that we have, some businesses that have agreed to work and coordinate with us in this program where you can pick up the bags for free. They used to be a $15 cost. We are now going to supply those bags for free, hoping that it encourages folks to get involved in the program. If you want a bag, you can go to West Marine in Chester, Rommel's Ace Hardware in Stevensville, Refill Goodness in Stevensville, and the Town Hall in Centerville. These are 4 businesses that have agreed to participate in the program, in addition to some marinas that participated last year, and our goal is to get some folks, some other marinas to participate in those. So anybody who owns a marina that has shrink wrap on their boats and you want to get some information, you can reach out to Plastic Free Queen Anne's, and they'll tell you how we could get the bags delivered to your marina to participate in the program. When you go to pick up your bag, there'll be a flyer with a QR code on that. And that'll give you directions and instructions on how to prep the shrink wrap plastic that will go in the bag. Unfortunately, the program for the recycling, you have to remove the cord, which is what is at the base of the plastic. And then any zippers or vents have to come out. And then, of course, the plastic needs to be rinsed off. So maybe you rinse it off before you remove it off your boat, but it's got to be cleaned up a little bit. And then what you'll do is you will take it to the Graysonville Transfer Station, where there is a special dumpster that is being supplied by the Marine Trades Association here in Maryland. And I'm going to try to remember the date, the cutoff date.
It came early.
Huh?
It came early.
Oh, so I know it's already there, but when are they going to take it?
They said the end of May.
End of May. So if you're interested in the program, you can check out those 4 businesses. It's a great opportunity to help reduce the amount of plastic that goes into our landfills. And again, if you have questions, you can reach out to Plastic Free Queen Anne's County, or I believe the Maryland Marine Trades Association.
I'll be sending the marinas an email.
Yeah, and the marinas all get emails as well. So please, folks, help us out. We appreciate it, and we'd like to really triple, quadruple the number that we were able to recycle from last year this year. And that's all I have. Beth, thank you very much for all your work. Appreciate that. And the folks that serve on the shrink wrap recycling committee. And of course, the financial support of our county commissioners for this program, because we are going to fund the purchase of the bags so it doesn't cost anybody money to recycle that plastic. So, thank you. And so now we've got roundtable. Yeah? We'll start with Patrick.
Can I go last?
He's trying to find something.
He's trying to find something?
I'll go.
Chris, we'll go to you.
All righty. So just a reminder, April 10th at Bayside Elementary is the town hall for the ramp management program. The information started to get out there. I want everybody to show up. Whether you're for or against, please show up. It's important to get everybody's input on that. One request I would have for people is we have a number of videos that Commissioner Moran and I did that we put out answering some frequently asked questions. I encourage people who are interested in this issue to watch those videos before you come out, because we're already starting to get comments and emails from people saying, why don't you just do, and they suggest something that is not legal, that we've already explained at many commissioner meetings that we put the videos out on. And we're not saying to ask questions, but it's going to be a more productive town hall if everybody has that sort of, that base of knowledge out there about things that we can and can't do that we've already sort of been talking about for years and years. And then we can engage in some more productive discussions, because if, you have several hundred people show up and it's like a repeat of the same question again, we're not making forward progress, and we want to make sure that we're getting to the new questions and helping people understand why we're doing it, what we hope to accomplish for it, what we can't do. And so try to educate yourself with some of the information that we've already put out there. If you don't, we'll answer it again, but it just might help the process a little bit. And then also on the Housing Authority, I want to thank the former executive director, Kathy Lindsay, for her efforts. She came on at a time when there was a bit of turmoil going on at the Housing Authority. She sort of helped shepherd that organization through. I think it's great that it's coming back under the county. I think that's needed for the future of the Housing Authority. Our Housing Authority has, a relatively small amount of units compared to some other entities that are sort of their own autonomous entities in other jurisdictions. And so it really does make sense for it to be under the county, where there's some additional resources that we can put forth so that the residents, the citizens of Queen Anne's County who live in those Housing Authority units, that we can be even more responsive to what their concerns are. So I'm really optimistic about what lays ahead and what we're going to be able to do for those residents. But, for those who have worked for the Housing Authority, who have volunteered for it over the years, thanks for your efforts. And, you help, build a foundation that we're going to build upon and do something even greater for those residents, particularly all of the seniors that live in the Housing Authorities, the properties that are in conjunction with our senior centers. I think this is a really great thing that we're about to embark on. That's it.
Patrick, back to you.
Yesterday, I went to Walk for Life in Annapolis, which is the first time I've ever gone on a march. And we marched down to, I didn't personally, but I arrived at the end. And there was a big rally outside the governor's place between the governors and the State House. And then there was another march for the union, for pro-union workers. So it was kind of a dueling thing.
Great day to march.
That's right. And, one side would talk louder than the other, and it was just a lot of fun. And it was all about saving babies, and I was just honored to be in it. A friend of mine, Tom Clark, actually had a heart attack, and our EMS revived him in Cloverfields. And he and his wife are going to make it tonight and just share their story about what the EMS, first responders, and the Kent Island Fire Department did for them to save his life. But they're going to come in a couple of weeks. So just a tremendous story that they wanted to share. A gentleman named Paul Couch, his son, came in third in the state for Kent Island High School wrestling. Third in the state. Pretty big deal. I just want to give him a shout out. And to the commissioner's point, I can't tell you how many people have talked to me about the Housing Authority issues, and it's just good. It's just going to be a great thing for our senior citizens.
Okay. I did have the opportunity Saturday night to attend the Queen Anne's County Office of the Sheriff's Award Gala, kind of an evening of recognition for our law enforcement officers that protect our community every day. And it was just a great event. The sheriff and his team that put this gala together do a wonderful job. And I was the only commissioner that was able to make it Saturday night. I would strongly urge my fellow commissioners next year, don't miss this event, because it's pretty amazing. And on that, Jim. Jim, do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, I do. Thank you. First, I'd like to say, Todd, if we can get a letter, a draft of a letter to MTA opposing the termination of the bus service that parks under the Kent Narrows Bridge, getting some letters and citizens that are, going to be frustrated about 300 cars we're going to add to meeting over the bridge, so we could get a letter together opposing that. Chris covered the town hall, which is 100% correct, watched the videos, so we don't get a lot of the, we're getting emails now, and some of those are covered in the infomercials we did. The skate park is getting ready to throw a shovel into the ground here, hopefully within the next 30 days, and get that started. And as we are getting ready ourselves to get in the throes of the budget cycle, which ought to be interesting this year. I also want to say, on the Housing Authority, I want to say a big thank you to Todd, our county administrator, for his hard work in that, and for especially Steve Wilson. We put Steve on the board with the intent of bringing this back into the county, and he brought it home, and I want to say thank you to him for that. It was, again, I think this is great for Queen Anne's County, and, just kudos to everybody for getting it done, and especially for our seniors. So that's all I got.
So Jim, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Good evening, everybody.